Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Bean here, and today I'm coming at you with my monthly wrap-up video for March of 2021. I did manage to get through 7 books over the course of March, and I'm just going to hop into my stats that I have right here in my summary, and we're just going to go through this really quickly, and then I'll hop right into the books. So overall, in total, I read 7 books this month and ended up being about 2,058 pages. Now, I feel like I need to put a little disclaimer in here as far as the page count goes. I only count the pages of the books that I finish or I DNF throughout the month. So this doesn't count the books that I started in one month and finished in a different month, like a book that I started in March and finished in April. That will go into April's count. So, just so you guys know. As far as pages per book, one of the books was under 200 pages. 2 were between 201 and 300 pages. 2 were between 301 and 400 pages. And 2 were between 401 and 500 pages. For ratings, I gave 3 of them 5 stars, 1 a 4.5 star, 2 4 stars, and 1 a DNF. The most pages of any of the books that I read was A Song of Wraiths and Ruin that had 480 pages, and the least number of pages was Spyx Family Volume 2 with 194 pages. The authors from the books I read this month, 4 of them were from the US, 1 from the UK, 1 from Japan, and 1 from Africa. As far as gender goes, 6 were female and 1 was male. For genre, I read 1 contemporary, 2 fantasy, 1 horror/thriller, 1 manga, 1 magical realism, and 1 mystery. And for ages, 3 of them were at YA, 4 of them were adult books. Around 1 and then 2 half books I listened to via audiobook. I own 4 of these books in physical form. 1 of these books I have already unhauled, and 2 of them were complete ebooks. So kind of giving my whole spectrum there. And let's move right into the first book that I read. The first book that I read in March was a continuation of the Agatha Christie stories, and that is Mrs. Mcgintys Dead by Agatha Christie. This is book number 30 in the Hercule Poirot series. Now, this one was an interesting book. I ended up giving a 4 out of 5. And this follows Poirot as he attempts to solve a mystery that he's not entirely committed to. And one of the main reasons for that also is because this also examines the difference between how a writer will view a murder mystery versus how a detective will see a murder mystery, which is very interesting to me. This was another really great Agatha Christie story. Unfortunately for me, it just kind of fell by the wayside, so I'm not able to give it a full 5 because it just wasn't completely memorable for me, unfortunately. But it was still, I remember, a great listen and a great read, so I did enjoy it. The next book that I read, I did end up giving a 5 out of 5, and that is The Holo Places by T. Kingfisher. This book follows Kara. She has recently been divorced, and she is just looking for a change in her life. And so she goes to basically the middle of nowhere and ends up taking over this curiosity shop when her uncle is hurt and has to go in for knee surgery. She makes friends with her neighbor, who is a flamboyantly gay coffee shop employee. He works for his older sister, who owns the coffee shop next door to this museum. And the 2 of them become really close friends, and one day Kara is doing some regular cleaning when she notices that there is a hole in the wall of this museum, and so she goes into the hole and discovers that there's a whole world back there. So instead of going by herself, she goes back to the coffee shop, recruits her barista friend Simon, and the 2 of them head into this world, and it gets super creepy and super dark pretty fast. I do have a list of trigger warnings for this book. well, the trigger warnings I have for this book are violence and gore, so do be on the lookout for that. We have guts falling out. It's a thing. Overall, this book was amazing. I absolutely loved T. Kingfisher's writing style, and as someone who is trying to get more into horror, this is a great one to go for thrillers. Like, this book had me captivated the entire time. There were book references throughout because our main character, Kara, is a huge book nerd, which is always helpful. But the amount of sass throughout this book was so much fun. Not to mention, the characters were also a bunch of fun in general. I did figure out a little bit about the twist a little early on, but I didn't understand the extent to it, and the ending threw me quite a bit. I didn't see that one coming. I felt like for about 3/4 of this book was just me staring at the pages going, WTF, what is going on? Oh my gosh, that I didn't think it could get creepier, and then it did, and I wanted to keep reading it, and it really was, it felt like a fast read. I read this in just a couple of days, so it really felt like a fast read, and I highly, highly recommend T. Kingfisher if you enjoy horror thriller books. The next book that I picked up was What Big Teeth by Rose Sazabo. I read 100 pages of this book and I ended up DNFing it. I just was not vibing with it really at all. I was not enjoying my time reading it. I didn't like the characters. I didn't care really what happened to them. This book was advertised to me as kind of a spin-off of The Addams Family. And I love The Addams Family. For those of you who don't know, Wednesday Addams is one of my favorite people in this world. But this book really didn't have that Addams Family feel to it. So the nice thing about the Addams Family is, yeah, they're kooky and they're crazy, but they're also a good family. Like, they're actually a family that cares about each other. And the problem with this book was there was none of that. I don't even remember the characters' names. Our main character, she wouldn't tell us anything, and by the end of the first 100 pages, I stopped caring, and it's mostly just because she wouldn't say what was going on, and I had a feeling, but then at the same time, I really didn't care, so unfortunately, I ended up DNFing this book. The next book that I picked up after that one is one that I knew I needed to read, and that is Spyx Family Volume 2 by Tetsuya Endo. This is such an enjoyable series, and I am coming to love it immensely. This follows a family of 3. The father is actually a spy named Twilight, and Twilight has been assigned to infiltrate a private school, and so in order to keep his cover, he needs to find a wife and child super fast, and so he ends up finding a child at an orphanage. Who is this little bugger? And she turns out she's actually psychic, and he doesn't know this. She doesn't tell him this. She's like 4 or 5, but she can read his mind. And then as the story progresses, he also needs to find himself a wife, and so ends up meeting a woman as he's prepping his new daughter for school. And turns out she's an assassin. Neither him nor his wife know of each other's preferred professions, except for our small psychic child who knows that mommy likes to kill people and save everyone, and daddy likes to save people too. And it's just the most adorable story ever. And part 2 picked up right where the first one left off, and I am so happy. I have volumes 3 and 4 also that I will be reading in the month of April because I love this series so much and I need it. I need more of this kind of fun fluff. It's so cute. So if you can't tell, that one got a 5 out of 5. All right. So the next book that I picked up is one that I have had my eyes on. It was actually on my TBR back in January. And that is A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. I loved this book. This book got a 4.5 out of 5 from me. The only reason it didn't get a 5 out of 5 is because there were quite a few cliches that I did kind of predict, and I saw a lot of the things that were gonna happen. I saw them happening. But Oh my gosh, guys, just go read this now. Go read it. Just go read it now, please. It's so good. So this book is a dual perspective story. Our first character that we meet is Karina, who is the princess of this land. And her mother is killed. Her mother is murdered right in front of her. And so she decides that she's going to try and bring her mother back from the dead. And as she does that, she finds this spell, and this spell requires the heart of a king. But since this is a matriarchal society ruled by women, she needs to find a husband. And so in order to get the beating heart of a king, she decides to put her own hand in marriage as a prize for the winner of Solstasia, which is a festival that is happening. It just so happens to be happening that week in her hometown, in the capital. The other character we meet is Malik, who is basically an illegal immigrant who ends up becoming one of the contestants of Solstasia when his younger sister is taken hostage by a demon, as him and his two sisters are attempting to flee to a land where they will not be prejudiced. Hey guys, Editing Bean here. So I realized I didn't actually explain why he needs to participate in Solstasia, and the reason that Malik needs to participate is because the demon that has kidnapped his younger sister is basically telling him that he needs to kill the princess in order for the demon to release his sister. So that is the whole thing. One's trying to kill the other one, the other one's trying to kill the first one. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic there. Back to the video. And so since his sister has been taken by this demon, he gets thrust into this world of politics where suddenly he has to compete in all of these trials in order to try and save his sister, in order to try and convince this demon to save his sister. Whew, this book was so good. The magic system is super intriguing and I really like it. It is based off of the days of the week, at least for their days of the week. So if you were born on Monday, you have one kind of magic. Tuesday is a different kind of magic. Wednesday, and so on and so forth. It is so interesting and such a fun way of doing it. So everyone has magic to a different degree. It all just depends on which of the gods that you pray to. This is the first book in a duology, and let me tell you now, I really want the second one right now, so can you please give it to me? Yes, good, cool, thanks, ha, good talking to ya. One of the most interesting things, at least for me, about this book is that the two main characters that we follow have zero self-confidence for two very different reasons, and it really does take a look into mental health. Malik does have severe anxiety and possibly sees things. We're not actually sure. And Karina kind of suffers with her own self-esteem issues, as she never believes she's going to be good enough to replace her mother. And she has spent the majority of her life really kind of being this wild child, and suddenly she's thrust in as queen, and she has to take responsibility, but the court is not happy, and they keep threatening to overthrow her, and it gets very intense very fast. So yeah, I love this story. This one also goes deep into storytelling, the art of storytelling and what it can do for people, and I could just go on and on and on about this book, but I will stop now. Got a 4.5 out of 5 from me. The next book I read was a book that I read basically for comfort, and that is Good Sam by Deep Masurvey. This is a book that I actually read because I saw the movie Good Sam and I thought it was adorable. So I just decided that I wanted to read something a little bit romantic and a little bit cutesy, and so I read a romance, and look, it's so cute. So this story follows Kate Bradley, who is a journalist for the local news channel, and she catches wind of a story of somebody who is leaving bags of cash on the front doorstep of people's homes, and she tries to make connections between them, and there's a whole bunch of drama with her ex fiance who she split it off with. And then there's a new romance between her and one of the men that she meets through working on this story. There's drama in the workplace. It's really such a sweet story, though, overall. It's all about giving back to the community and giving back for what you believe in. I will say trigger warning as emotional and mental abuse as far as in abusive relationship goes, along with stalking. So that is another thing in this book to be wary of. I would consider that to be a trigger warning for some people. I ended up giving this a 4.5. Like I said, before I even started this book, I knew who did it. So it wasn't really a mystery for me because I already knew. But it still doesn't mean that I enjoyed the story any less. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5. Right, and the last book that I read in the month of March was The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book got a 5 out of 5. It's so amazing, so incredible, so uniquely written too. This book follows Addie LaRue, who is a girl from, I want to say, like 1500s or something of the sort. And she ends up becoming engaged to someone she doesn't want to marry. And so she prays to a god and ends up making a deal with a demon, basically. And this demon is allowing her to live forever, but the con side of that is that no one will ever remember her. And so she ends up going through her life living, knowing that no one will ever remember her, living by stealing things and not such, because it is what she has to do in order to survive, until one day when a boy at a bookstore remembers her. And so this is the heartbreaking story of that. And when I say heartbreaking, oh my gosh, guys, this book is so heartbreaking, and it's beautiful and it's lovely, and I just it made me cry. I cried because of this book. I never cry at books, and this book had me in tears. Thank you, V.E. Schwab. No, this book, I cannot recommend this enough to everyone. This was so beautifully written. I will say trigger warnings for violence, rape, sex, drugs, alcohol, suicidal thoughts. There is a lot to unpack in this book. There is a lot going on. And it's written not so much in a chronological order as it's written between the present and then past flashbacks. So I think that is a super intriguing way of writing this book, and I absolutely love it. So go read it, guys. It's so good, and I just go read it, okay? It's just so good. It's just so good. I don't know why I'm being petulant like a child right now, but you need to read it. Okay, that is what I have for you guys here today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, now is the perfect time to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button down below. We post videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and if you want to be reminded when we post these videos, hit the little bell icon down below. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep reading. Bye!